Chapter 12. Work. Tiller and Florida were in the barn. "This here's the boat," Tiller said. "It's in kind of sad shape, I admit. My father and I built it over 40 years ago. It's mostly a canoe, see? With this special tailored back and so we can hook a motor to it." Tiller removed a tarp from the center of the boat. "Those seats need redoing, and the trim, there's a couple of leaks, and it needs a fair amount of sanding and varnishing." "Wait a minute," Florida said. "So I've got to rebuild this boat we're going down the river in?" We're going to fix this rickety heap, you and me." "How many hundreds of years is it going to take to fix this thing?" Florida asked. "I never rebuilt a boat before." "Well, I have, and it won't take years or even months. We're going to do it in 2 weeks." 2 weeks? Are you in control of your brains? Oh, I get it. I've got to be out here day and night hammering and sawing. So, she thought, this is the yuck part. That settles it. We're getting on that night train tonight. "You only have to work when you want," Tiller said. "You get tired or bored, you stop. How much do you think you should get per hour?" "How much what?" Florida asked. "How much water?" "Earnings. How much money per hour?" "You mean to tell me you're going to pay me to work, like in money?" "Seems only fitting," Tiller said. "How much an hour?" Florida looked the old man up and down. He was dressed in worn overalls, his boots were scuffed, and the shoelaces broken and knotted. 50 cents, she said. 50 cents an hour? "Well, shoot, I don't know how much," Florida said. 10 cents? A nickel? Tiller glanced toward Sari and Dallas on the porch. "Sari thinks maybe $5 would be about right," he said. "An hour?" Florida said. "You mean like you'd give me $5 for every hour I worked?" "Is that what you're saying?" "That's what I'm saying." "Well, squeeze my brains. I'll be out here day and night. I won't even stop to eat. $5 an hour?" She couldn't wait to tell Dallas. In one afternoon, she'd have enough money for the two of them to hop on the night train and get out of town. Sari spread books across the porch table and handed Dallas a pencil and a pad of paper. "Okay, honey," Sari said. "We're going to start our list. We're going to need some equipment for our trip to Kankakee." "What sort of equipment?" Dallas asked. "Well, it says here we're going to need backpacks and binoculars." "Where do you get stuff like that? The Salvation Army?" Sari leaned forward. "I was sort of hankering for new stuff." "You mean like you go in a store and you buy it new? Nobody's used it before?" "That's what I mean. Does that sound too extravagant?" "You're talking brand new stuff. For both of us?" "That's right," Sari said. New stuff. Dallas couldn't believe it. He'd never had anything new before. Well, maybe once when he and Florida were little. They'd been sent to the Hoppers, who gave them new toys. But when the twins were sent back to the home, the Hoppers kept the toys. He tried to imagine new stuff, shiny and clean, with that new stuff smell. He could almost see in his hands new binoculars, and he could see himself up in a tree, scanning the horizon. Chapter 13. Gravy. When Tiller had paid Florida $20 for the first afternoon's work, she rushed up to the loft to show Dallas. "We could leave now," she said. "Tonight?" Dallas reached under his mattress and held out another $20. "Look at this. I got paid too. It's a bundle. We're rich." He laid out all the money on the bed, smoothing the bills. "You still think they're a couple of lunatics? To give away this kind of money?" she said. "To a couple of kids? Yep, definitely lunatics." Dallas stared at the money, smoothing it and rearranging it and holding it up to the light. He thought of all the food it might buy. Delicious food, sweet food, juicy and fresh food, not the bland, tasteless meals they always had at the home. "So, are we really leaving tonight?" Florida said. "Are we really catching that night train?" From down below, Sari called, "Dallas, Florida." Is that chicken I smell? Dallas asked. Florida leaned over the railing. Yep, dumplings too. I've been thinking, Dallas said. If we got this much in one day, think how much we'd get in 2 days. You think we ought to stay one more day? Florida watched Sari down below. Homemade dumplings, Dallas. Florida slipped her money under the mattress. I don't see where another day with these here lunatics would hurt too much. Yeah, Dallas said. What's another day going to hurt? We've been waiting on that freight train for 13 years. After dinner, Tiller was grumpy. That that old bucket. Wish we had plumbing. I like that old well, Dallas said. Want me to get the water? Show me how. Outside, Tiller said. Nothing much to it. Just hook this here rope to this handle, careful like, and then you lower it down. Dallas leaned over the well and peered down. Kind of scary black down there, he said. He looped the rope to the bucket handle and tossed the bucket over the edge. Wait, Tiller said, but it was too late, and the bucket had come loose from the rope, and they had heard it splosh into the water below. Bucket jumped off the rope, Dallas said. Got another bucket? On the porch, Tiller said, but we're going to have to figure out how to get that other bucket out. Don't want it rotting in the water. He was weary. I'm too old to be teaching kids how to do stuff, he thought. I did this all before with my own kids. Never mind, he told Dallas. I'll do it myself. Well, what about the wood? Dallas said. You could show me how to chop it. I'd like to use that axe. It'd be just like Paul Bunyan. Tiller had an image of Dallas wildly swinging the axe, maybe chopping off his foot. Maybe tomorrow, Tiller said. How about that lantern there? Want to show me how to light that thing? It's so cool that you don't have real lights and stuff. It's like pioneers. Tiller envisioned Dallas knocking over the lantern, setting the whole cabin on fire. Maybe tomorrow, Tiller said. Uh-huh, Dallas mumbled, as if he didn't believe Tiller. Dallas kicked at a rock near his feet, and then he turned and ran toward the creek. Sari stepped off the porch. Tiller, what are you doing? That boy just wants to learn how to do stuff. What's the matter with you lately? I don't know, Tiller said. I'm feeling crotchety. I want those blasted kids to leave and for us to go back to our life. And why don't you come on the river with me, and then I'll go with you in search of that bird thing in Kangadoon. Sari placed her hand on Tiller's shoulder. Look, Mr. Crotchety, I don't really have any desire to paddle my arms off, and you don't have any desire whatsoever to go bird searching with me. Admit it. And I know it's not easy for you, suddenly having kids in the house again, but I think we ought to give it a few more days, see how things work out. Now, go inside and eat some cake and quit being so grumbly. She patted his cheek. And maybe you'd better give some of that cake to Florida, too. The next morning in the barn, Tiller said, Florida, you have a way with wood. A bad way, right? Florida asked. I mucked it up, didn't I? No, he said. I meant that you seem to have a certain idea about how you want to do the trim. It's not how I do it, but I knew it. It's stupid. Not stupid, just different. He'd had to restrain himself from redoing the parts she'd already done. She hammered nails so hard that the wood was dented and bashed. The varnish dripped in globs down the side. I gobbed up that first piece, though, Florida said. Remember? Tiller said. And what about that can of varnish? She said. The one I spilled? I don't think any master goes around spilling gop. And then stepping in it, and then getting it in her hair, and then... You know what I did once, Tiller said? My daddy told me to paint the barn. Red paint. Very bright red paint. And this old mangy cat crawled around my legs, getting in my way. And so I just dabbed a little red paint on his ears. And then it went bonkers and scratched my arm up, one side and down the other. And then I dipped that brush back in the paint and flung a whole gob of it at the cat. But the cat got out of the way, and instead I splattered the chicken. And the chicken came after me, pecking and pecking, and I dipped my brush back in and went after the chicken. But the chicken got away, and instead I hit the pig, and then, well, you get the picture. Pretty soon the whole barnyard was splattered with red paint, and all of the animals were in a frenzy. And my pa came out. wanting to know what the devil was going on. And, "I'll bet you got a hiding," Florida said. "I'll bet you got whooped up one side and down the other." "Well, no," Teller said. "That wasn't my pa's way." "It wasn't? You mean he didn't tear you limb from limb and throw you down in the spidery cellar?" "Nope. What he did was sit there on the fence with a piece of straw in his mouth, and he said, 'I seen a red cat running through the yard. You see that?' 'Yes, sir,' I said. 'And I seen a red chicken and a red pig. You see that?' 'Yes, sir,' I said. 'Now what we going to do about a red cat and a red chicken and a red pig?' my father said. And so I had to explain to him how I was going to get rid of that red paint, and then I had to do it. Took me nigh on 2 weeks to get all the red paint out of all those animals." "But you didn't get a whooping?" Florida said. "Nope." Teller was surprised that he'd rambled on, telling Florida about the long-forgotten red paint incident. He felt as if the girl had tricked him somehow. How'd she do that? Florida looked around the barn and out through its wide-open doors at the far end toward an arch of tall, leafy trees. "You lived here since you were born?" she asked. "Nearly," Teller said. "I was born on a boat." "On a boat? What happened? Your mama get thrown out of the house and was running away and she stole a boat and, no. My parents lived on a boat. A little houseboat. Lived there until I was 7. Then we found this place, this land, I mean. We built the cabin and this here barn." There she goes again, Teller thought, tricking me into talking about old stuff. "And your own kids grew up here?" Florida said. "Yep." "Then why did they leave?" Teller shrugged. "Got married, got jobs in big cities." He put his hand to his chest, surprised by the sudden sadness he felt. It was as if there was a big empty well inside where his children used to be. Florida smoothed her hand over the piece of trim she'd been working on. "You didn't whoop them then, did you?" "Nope." "Well, they must be crazy," Florida said, "to leave a place like this, where they could be outside all day and they could run all they wanted and they could shout and spit and stuff." Teller put down his brush and went to the open barn doors and gazed out across the holler. He tried to picture it as Florida was seeing it, and as his own children had seen it, and as he had seen it as a child. On the back porch, Sari read through the last of the equipment Dallas had made. "I believe you thought of everything, Dallas," she said. "You've got some real good ideas here, things I wouldn't have thought of." "You're kidding, right?" In school, Dallas sat in the back. The children in the front had ideas. If Dallas had to do a report, the teacher would say, "Here, John, John will help you get an idea," or, "That's not what I meant. Let Bonnie show you how to do it," or, "If you can't do the assignment, just sit quietly." Dallas didn't have parents to come in and look at his work on conference days, or anyone to worry over his report card, so it had never mattered very much to him whether he did the work or not. He daydreamt at school, imagining quiet places in the woods, or how cookies were made, or how trees grew. He didn't know that these things in his head were all ideas. But here on the porch in Ruby Holler, Sari was saying, "No, I'm not kidding. You've got some, interesting ideas. I'm not sure we really need a skateboard, and we might want to add a few things, of course, like maybe sleeping bags and little things like that." She retrieved a book from a stack by the window. "I want to show you the best thing now. This is what we're going to find in Kangadoon. This is the red-tailed rocking bird." She opened the book and held it before him. "Uh-huh," Dallas said, but a flutter in the trees distracted him. "Whoa," he said. "You see that bright blue bird?" "Dallas, that's just an old blue jay." "Well, it's a mighty incredible blue jay." "Is it?" Sari said, following his gaze. Dallas made a deep well in the mashed potatoes and ladled in the smooth, caramel-colored gravy. "You sure make good gravy, ma'am," he said. "No lumps or anything." "And it don't taste like possum feet neither," Florida added. "Ew," Tiller said. "That's a compliment, I think," Sari said. In the loft that night, Dallas and Florida added 2 sweet rolls and 2 apples to their stash beneath a loosened floorboard. I don't get hungry in the night here, Dallas said. Do you? No, but just in case. Dallas counted his money again. If we got this much money in a week, think how much we'd get in 2 weeks. A bundle, Florida said. We're going to be gazillionaires. What do you think gazillionaires do with their money? Heck, I don't know, Florida said. They probably buy lots and lots and lots of food. The following night at dinner, as Tiller passed him a bowl of spaghetti, Dallas said, You two sure go to a lot of trouble cooking. Trouble? Tiller said. We like to cook. One person's trouble is another person's joy. That's what Tiller's mom used to say, Sari added. Besides, we don't get to cook that much now that our kids are gone. How many kids do you have? Dallas asked. 4, Tiller said, lightly tapping his chest as he said each name. Buddy, Lucy, Charlie, and Rose. You miss them? Florida asked. Used to be we missed them every day, every minute, Sari said. We couldn't figure out how to fill up our time. Sometimes, even now, it feels kind of empty here in the holler. Tiller stared at his wife. She feels that way too? He cleared his throat. But we got used to it, I guess. How'd you get used to it? Dallas said. Tiller swirled his spaghetti. Well, first off, we made ourselves some getting over kids stew, special recipe. Yeah, right, Florida said. There isn't really stew that makes you get over missing your kids. We've got some amazing secret recipes, Sari said. Beat the blues broccoli and anti-cranky crumpets and, hey, with us here now, Dallas said, maybe you ought to make yourself some getting used to kids again stew. Tiller reached for a meatball. What do you think we had last night? He said.